Hey everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video. And in today's video, guys, it's a sad video. We're going over the last of the Ikoria spoilers for this spoiler season. They did the common dump today, and we, of course, are not going to be going over those common cards in this video, but we are going to go over the last of the uncommon and the rares. So, before we get into today's video, let me please ask you guys to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean so much to me, and I would greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into our first spoiler of the day with Yarion, Sky Nomad. It's 3 generic and 2 hybrid mana of white or blue, and it's a legendary creature, bird, Serpent. It's a rare, and it has companion. Now, before we go any further, I would like to mention a video down in the description box below. I have put this link to my video where I went over all the Ikoria mechanics in the most simplistic way. So if you have any confusion or just want to know about the mechanics in general with diagrams, please go check out that video down below. But as far as this card, it is a companion. So you can play a companion in standard from your sideboard. It does count towards your count for your sideboard, so it is 1 of 15. You can only play one of that 1 of 15, and your starting deck must meet the companion guidelines. So the companion guidelines for the starter deck for this companion is your starting deck contains at least 20 cards more than the minimum deck size. So for standard, this would mean you would have to have a deck of 80 cards. So, it has flying, and it says when Yarion enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control, return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step, and it is a 4/5. So, we normally call this ability a flicker. Now, flicker normally happens where it would go into exile and then come immediately back, but with this, it comes back at the next end step. So primarily you're going to want to be playing this on your second main phase if you want to use it as a flicker. And here's some cards I think will work really well with it. Yarion, the Desecrated, using the flicker ability to basically make a ETB tribal is pretty good. One of the ways that it's pretty good already with Yarion is Risen Reef, making an elemental ETB tribal and having a Risen Reef just completely go off over and over again. But with Yarion, you can have it go off a lot more than that by exiling all your elementals and returning them and having Risen Reef trigger like 20 times, especially if you have Yarion out at the same time. The other card I was thinking about with this is Leyline of Anticipation. If you don't want to be kind of held to that second main phase, it would honestly be awesome to just flicker all your field at instant speed. So Leyline of Anticipation, probably a good card to throw in this deck. Our next card is Titan's Nest. It is 1 generic, 1 black, 1 green, and 1 blue mana. For an enchantment rare, at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard, exile a card from your graveyard, add generic, spend this mana only to cast a colored spell without X in its mana cost. No Hydra Tribal, guys. No Hydra Tribal. But this card can be pretty good. I do appreciate that it kind of compounds on itself by doing that at the beginning of your upkeep. You look at the top card and then you can put it into the graveyard, so you have cards to exile at instant speed, mind you, and add generic mana. But I don't really know how I feel about this card yet. It's kind of ramp. but kind of not. And you have to be playing around this whole milling yourself deck. I wish it was exile a card from any graveyard and add 1 mana, and you maybe do this at, only once per turn. That would be better for me, but because it's how it is, this is the only thing I really could come up with, is having cards that you can play from exile. Now, Eternal Scourge, you can't use that generic mana, but you can still play it from exile, and the reason you can't use it, the generic mana, is because it has to be to cast a colored spell, and, well, this doesn't have a color on it, does it? So, there's cards like that you can play from exile, but also, when you're trying to mill yourself, you might as well go all the way and win with like a Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, or a Oracle of Thassa in Standard right now, or a Laboratory Maniac in Commander. So, possibly, this card could be good in that niche little environment there. Our next card is Genesis Ultimatum. Now, this is an insane ultimatum from the cycle of ultimatums. It is teamer colored, so 2 green, 3 blue, 2 red, sorcery, rare. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand. Exile Genesis Ultimatum. No human eyes have ever witnessed the birth of an apex monster. So this is actually a really cool spell because it says basically you can draw 5 cards, and from those 5 cards you can put any permanents onto the field. So really that's pretty good. Now, of course, the mana is the real hang up here, and of course in a previous video I mentioned with the ultimatums that have green in them, you can use Nyx Bloom Ancient, and that way you only need, for instance in this one, a forest, a island, and a mountain to be able to get Genesis Ultimatum off, basically for 3 mana. Alright, 3 lands tapping. But here's where I wanted to take it with this video. Rattlestorm Conduit, obviously copying Genesis Ultimatum makes it insanely good. Drawing the top 10 cards, and from those cards putting any amount of permanents onto the battlefield, pretty good, as well as dealing 2 damage with Rattlestorm Conduit. But here's a step up in Commander. Eye of the Storm. So, Eye of the Storm is this really weird card that I actually haven't seen a lot played outside of our playgroup. But in our playgroup, Eye of the Storm is like this card that we say, oh crap, Eye of the Storm's out. You know it's about to go down. Because Eye of the Storm says whenever a player plays an instant or sorcery card, remove it from the game. Then that player copies each instant or sorcery card removed from the game with Eye of the Storm. For each copy, that player may play the copy without paying its mana cost. So for instance, you put Genesis Ultimatum on there, so every single time that you, let's say, do a crappy, little small spell afterwards, opt. 1 blue mana, scry 1, draw 1, right? Well, when you opt after playing a Genesis Ultimatum, which, by the way, will instantly be able to be played, and because it's being exiled already with Eye of the Storm, it won't exile itself, making it unplayable off of Eye of the Storm. So after having a Genesis Ultimatum on top of Eye of the Storm, you would then play opt for 1 blue mana and do all of this over and over again. And of course, your opponents will be able to too, so keep that in mind. They can use that instance or sorceries to do it themselves, but it will make the game go by a lot faster and a lot fun. This personally is going into my Chaos deck, because doesn't it just sound like Chaos? So yeah, this is going to be a fun card. Definitely getting a copy for myself. Our next card is Hunted Nightmare. It is a 1 generic 2 black mana creature nightmare rare, and it has menace. When Hunted Nightmare enters the battlefield, target opponent puts a death touch counter on a creature they control. The cruelest monsters inspire the greatest tales. The greatest tales inspire the cruelest hunters. Rieli the Everwise, and is a 4/5. So, a 4/5 for 3 mana is pretty good. The menace ability is really good, especially if they only have 1 creature they can put that death touch counter on, then you're golden. But here's the thing. There's actually kind of this menace tribal going on. Each keyword basically had their own tribal with Ikoria. So here's some cards I thought would work really well. Labyrinth, Raptor. Whenever a creature you control with Menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices a creature blocking it. So that's pretty good. Even if they're able to block Hunted Nightmare, they're going to have to choose to block it with 2 creatures because of Menace. But they're also going to have to sacrifice one of those creatures. And if they sacrifice the one with Death Touch, it's just a win-win, isn't it? Here's another card, Sonorous Howlbonder. Each creature you control with Menace can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. So adding on top of that you have to be have 3 creatures block Hunted Nightmare is pretty good. Pretty good, because most of the time people are not going to want to block something that has to be blocked by 3 separate things. Or most of the time they can't because it's 3 separate things. Another card to keep in mind for this whole Menace tribal, Angrith, Captain of Chaos. Creatures you control have Menace. So even these cards here, they already have Menace. Even the Amass token, for instance, that Angrith makes himself, will have Menace and have to be blocked by 3 creatures, and they will have to sacrifice a creature that's blocking it. So all of these are going to add up pretty good. Now, as you can see, there's kind of this mana curve with Labyrinth Raptor being 2, Hunted Nightmare being 3, Sonorous Howlbonder being 3, and Angrith, Captain of Chaos being 4. There's actually a pretty good mana curve, and it doesn't look like it's hard with the hybrid manas. So I really think this is going to be maybe a competitive deck, but at least a seen deck. A deck that is played a good bit. So expect this. Our next card is Mythos of Aluna. This is the last of the Mythos. 2 generic, 2 blue mana, sorcery, rare. Create a token that's a copy of target permanent. If red and green was spent to cast a spell, instead create a token that's a copy of the permanent, except that token has, when this permanent enters the battlefield, if it's a creature, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. I don't like that, personally, so I'm not going to be paying a green and a red for this, but the blue ability on this is actually pretty good. Copying a target permanent. Before we've had copying legendary creature or planeswalker and not being legendary, Spark Double. We've had quasi duplicate copying target creatures. Mirror Maid copying target enchantment or artifact. So copying target create a token that's a copy of target permanent is actually pretty good because you can copy any target permanent on the field. This will be actually really good for Commander because that's not that bad of a price for 4 mana. So here's some cards that were printed recently that I think will work really good. Whirlwind of Thought. This is a non-creature spell, and so we'll be able to copy our Whirlwind of Thought or our opponent's Whirlwind of Thought and draw more cards. So that's pretty good. Another card is Shark Typhoon. Again, going with that whole idea of non-creature spells, and this one time making XX tokens. Pretty good. I think it will work out. So keep this in mind, especially you Commander players, because this card will probably go to Commander. Excuse me. Our last rare of the night is Bonder's Enclave. It's a land, it's a rare, and has tap, add generic. Then you can pay 3 generic and tap it, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. There is a sanctuary that reveals itself only to those graced by the Aluna, the mystical connection between Bonder and monster. This card is kind of an to me. I mean, it's a rare land, and it's The first thought that came to mind is Zerda the Dawnbreaker. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. So, for 1 generic and tapping this card, you can draw a card if you have a creature with power 4 or greater. Zerda is not 4 or greater, so not that one. Another thing is like compounding on top of that whole 4 or greater, Colossal Majesty. Just, I guess, having more draw power. This is obviously going to go into some stompy deck, You're not going to be playing white weenies and expect to play Bonder's Enclave on top of that. So, I think this card will find some niche to be in, but I doubt it will be a high-valued card. So now we're going to get into our uncommons. Our first uncommon being Ivy Elemental. X mana in a green creature elemental uncommon. Ivy Elemental enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Could you have give me an elemental Hydra, please? For safety reasons, the keeping of houseplants within Ikoria's sanctuaries is heavily discouraged, and it is a 0/0, but gets all those +1/+1s on it. Simic Ascendancy comes to mind. The new, of course I'm blanking on it now, but the new crystal artifact, one generic legendary artifact that every time a creature dies with counters on it, you can put it on the artifact and then put it on another creature, I think at your instat? No, at your combat phase, I believe. So yeah, that's pretty much where that's going to be. It is going to be a playable card and probably a played card as well because it's X in a green, instead of X in 2 green or XX in a green. So definitely probably a card played. Wingspan Mentor, 2 generic and a blue creature, human wizard uncommon. When Wingspan Mentor enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on target non-human creature you control. 2 generic, a blue, and tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with flying. Their bond grew over time, as did the height of their jumps, and it is a 1/3. Obviously, this is going to end up in a Flyers deck, if at all, but I don't really think that there's a cycle that's just like this, with a +1/+1 counter on keyword, and of course making a keyword token on a non-human creature. I just don't think that these cards are really going to be played all that well, except for the trample one. So, Mystic Subdual, 1 generic and a blue enchantment aura, uncommon, has flash, says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -2/-0 and loses all abilities. Mutating onto the creature won't give it new abilities. It can gain abilities in other ways. That's interesting the way it said that like that. Mutating onto the creature won't give it new abilities. That makes sense because the creature doesn't have abilities with this on it, but it can gain abilities in other ways. That's weird. So anyways, as far as this card, it doesn't shut it down completely. It's not a pacifism. It doesn't say it can't attack or block, but it does turn off activated abilities, other abilities like static abilities. So possibly going to be played. I like that they at least added the -2/-0. I love that it added the flash. And right now we have a constellation tribal, so this could enter into a constellation tribal. I could see Simic Constellation being a thing, sure. I could see Bant Constellation being a thing. So definitely, more than likely, we'll see play. I do imagine we'll see play. Avian Oddity, 3 generic and a blue creature bird uncommon, has flying, has cycling. For 2 generic and a blue, you can discard this card and draw a card. When you cycle Avian Oddity, put a flying counter on target creature you control, and it is a 2/4. It's a card. I do want to mention that these cycling keyword cards, you can do it instant speed, so if you need to block a flyer, let's say they sent a Healer's Hawk at you and they're like, oh, you don't have any flyers. Well, all of a sudden you do it instant speed. So yes, I do think that can be at least good in sealed and draft. So keep those in mind if you're playing those types of events. But guys, it comes to an end. Sadly, this is the end of the Ikoria spoilers. So thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have made it all the way through spoiler season with me. If y'all have, please leave a comment below. Let me know how y'all felt about the set so far. I will be doing some updated videos on top creatures, top enchantments, going over all the top cards of the set that I think that you should definitely look out for if you're drafting. Definitely look for in your sealed boxes. definitely, I would recommend buying some of the collector boosters because of Space Godzilla Death Corona. How you feel about that? It's not on me. Feel however you feel about it. Have fun with that. I implore you to have feelings. But as far as I am concerned, I'm buying a box myself and hope to make money not off of the disease, but off the card itself, because Wizards is providing it. I don't want to say anything more than that, but yes, I do plan on dropping some money on the set digitally and in person when my card shop eventually opens back up, RFP Pinnacle Cards and Games. But yes, I do plan on spending money on this set. So guys, thank you for watching and making it this far. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that usual YouTube stuff. And this is Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.